On November 16, 1986, Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628, a routine flight, turned into one of the most intriguing UFO encounters in aviation history. As the Boeing 747 cargo plane cruised over the remote wilderness of Alaska, its crew would witness something that defied explanation. The event captivated the public and media, sparked a military response, and led to an investigation by the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA. This encounter remains one of the most credible UFO sightings to date, with detailed radar data and first-hand accounts from seasoned pilots. Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628 was piloted by Captain Kenju Terauchi, a veteran pilot with over 10,000 hours of flight experience. The flight, carrying a shipment of French wine, was en route from Paris to Tokyo, with a scheduled stop in Anchorage, Alaska. Its crew also included co-pilot Takanori Tamefuji and flight engineer Yoshio Tsukuba. As the flight departed from Reykjavik, Iceland, and headed towards Alaska, the crew was prepared for a routine journey across the North Pole. However, as they neared the Alaskan airspace, an extraordinary event unfolded that would leave them and the world grappling for answers. At approximately 5:11 p.m., while cruising at an altitude of 35,000 feet, around 104 miles northeast of Fort Yukon, Alaska, Captain Terauchi noticed unusual lights on the left side of the aircraft. At first, he assumed they were military aircraft, but the lights soon became brighter and moved in an unconventional manner. As the lights approached closer, Terauchi could make out the outline of a large, walnut-shaped craft. The lights were so intense that they illuminated the interior of the cockpit, casting an eerie glow. As the objects drew nearer, the crew was able to observe them in greater detail. They described the objects as being massive, with one estimated to be twice the size of an aircraft carrier. The objects had a metallic appearance and emitted a strange heat, which Terauchi could feel even inside the pressurized cabin of the aircraft. Both objects stayed put for a while, traveling in a straight line alongside Flight 1628. The sight captivated and horrified the crew in equal measure. It was clear that these were no regular planes due to their unusual behavior and abrupt arrival. Concerned and bewildered, Captain Terauchi contacted Anchorage Air Traffic Control to report the sighting. However, despite the crew's vivid description, the controllers could not see the objects on their radar. The communication between the cockpit and air traffic control was tense, as the crew tried to make sense of what they were seeing while controllers searched for any signs of the objects on their screens. To add to the mystery, the objects were not picked up by the plane's own radar systems either, which added to the confusion and fear on board. The objects didn't behave like any known aircraft. They displayed flight patterns that defied the laws of aerodynamics, moving at incredible speeds and making sharp turns that no human-made craft could replicate. At one point, the objects abruptly changed their position, moving directly in front of the aircraft. They then positioned themselves one above the other, forming a peculiar configuration that only deepened the crew's sense of unease. Captain Terauchi, an experienced pilot, later described the encounter as surreal, stating that the objects moved in ways that were beyond human technology. As the encounter continued, NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, was alerted to the situation. In response, they scrambled fighter jets to investigate the unidentified objects. The crew of Flight 1628 was stunned into silence as the objects abruptly vanished from sight as they neared the threshold of Soviet territory. By the time the jets from NORAD arrived in the area, the objects were gone. The encounter lasted nearly 50 minutes, during which time the crew experienced a mix of awe, fear, and confusion. The sudden disappearance of the objects added another layer of mystery to the incident. Were the objects aware of the geopolitical boundaries, or was their disappearance coincidental? This question remains unanswered. Following the incident, the FAA launched an investigation to determine what exactly happened. Shrouded in secrecy, the investigation involved multiple government agencies, including the CIA and FBI. For 3 months, the FAA conducted interviews, reviewed radar data, and analyzed the crew's reports. Despite the wealth of information, the FAA concluded that the incident was unexplained and classified much of the evidence. The lack of transparency fueled speculation and conspiracy theories, with many believing that the government was hiding the true nature of the encounter. News of the incident broke internationally, capturing the public's imagination and sparking widespread debate. The media coverage ranged from serious investigative journalism to sensational headlines, with various interpretations of what had occurred. Some believed that it was an encounter with extraterrestrial beings, while others suggested it was a top-secret military experiment. The incident became a focal point in the ongoing debate about the existence of UFOs and the possibility of alien life, with many viewing it as one of history's most credible UFO sightings. Captain Kenju Terauchi decided to go public with his account of the incident, believing that the truth should be known. However, his decision came at a great personal cost. Japan Airlines, under pressure from the media and the public, reassigned him to a desk job, effectively ending his flying career. Terauchi's credibility was questioned, and he faced ridicule from skeptics. Despite this, he remained steadfast in his account, insisting that what he and his crew witnessed was real and that the incident was a genuine encounter with an unidentified flying object. The FAA released information describing Captain Terauchi as a UFO repeater, indicating that he had reported multiple UFO sightings before and after the November 17th incident involving Flight 1628. On January 11, 1987, Terauchi reported another UFO sighting in the same region, describing irregular pulsating lights and a large black chunk in front of the aircraft. However, FAA radar did not detect any objects during this event, and it was later concluded that the lights were likely from small villages, diffused by ice crystals in the atmosphere. Terauchi referred to the objects as a spaceship or mothership and believed that these beings might reveal themselves to humans in the near future. John Callahan, a former FAA division chief of the Accidents and Investigations Branch, later revealed that he had been involved in presenting evidence of the incident to high-level government officials. Callahan asserted that he reviewed the evidence, including radar data and audio recordings, during a meeting with representatives from the CIA, FBI, and other agencies. However, they instructed Callahan to maintain the confidentiality of the meeting and its contents. This testimony added another layer of intrigue to the incident, suggesting that there was a concerted effort to suppress the true nature of what had occurred. Many theories have emerged over the years to explain the Flight 1628 incident. Some suggest that the objects were experimental military aircraft, possibly from the United States or another nation. Others believe that they were atmospheric phenomena, such as rare electrical discharges or reflections from ice crystals. However, the most popular theory is that the objects were of extraterrestrial origin. The lack of a definitive explanation and the credibility of the witnesses have made this theory particularly compelling, keeping the incident alive in the public imagination. Not only did the Flight 1628 incident captivate the public's attention, but it also changed the way the public and government deal with UFO encounters. In the years following the incident, there was a notable increase in public interest in UFOs, leading to more reported sightings and a greater demand for transparency from governments around the world. The case prompted aviation authorities to take UFO reports more seriously, influencing the procedures for documenting and investigating such encounters. It also fostered a heightened understanding that dismissing UFO phenomena as mere misidentifications or hoaxes was no longer an option. This incident, among others, laid the groundwork for more open discussions about the possibility of extraterrestrial life, ultimately leading to the declassification of numerous UFO-related documents by various governments in the following decades. The Flight 1628 incident remains one of the most significant and well-documented UFO encounters in history. It's had a lasting impact on UFO research, aviation, and the public's interest in the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Numerous documentaries, books, and articles have featured the incident, and it remains a subject of debate and investigation. For many, it represents a rare instance where a credible and detailed account of a UFO sighting was backed up by radar data and corroborated by multiple witnesses. The legacy of the incident is a reminder of the enduring mystery of UFOs and the quest for answers to the age-old question, are we alone in the universe?